Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Directors meeting of HART. This is Friday, July 26th. It is approximately 8:40 a.m. We'll begin by calling roll. Kika Kowski,
Present.
Anthony Alto,
Present.
Don Takeuchi Apuna is excused. Michelle Chan Boongrabber. Michelle, say hi. I'll come back to you. Natalie Iwasa, she's excused. Roger Morton,
Present.
Joe O'Donnell.
Present.
Thank you, Joe.
You're
Ed
welcome.
Sniffen. Was that you, Michelle? Is excused. Arthur Tolentino is excused. Robert Yu.
Present.
Michelle, I need you. And the chair is here.
She texted me here.
Oh,
I don't know if that suffices.
Yeah, there's a combination.
wait, something
Can you
happened.
hear me now?
Michelle, okay, I thought so. It changed. Thank you, Michelle. So we do have quorum. Thank you very much. We'll begin with, first of all, is there anyone here to testify on any agenda item? Anyone? No? Anyone? Okay, no testimony. We will then go to agenda item number 2, which is the executive director's update. Laurie, number A, update on city center guideway and station procurement and hypothetical funding scenarios. This is, I guess this would have to be an executive session. Okay, may I have a motion so that the board may enter into executive session? Excuse me.
I move the board move into executive session.
Okay, pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statutes 92-4, Section 92-5A3, and to deliberate concerning the authority of persons designated by the board to conduct labor negotiations or to negotiate the acquisition of public property or during the conduct of such negotiations, subsection 92-5A4, to consult with the board's attorney on questions and issues on a matter pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities, and section 92-5A8 to deliberate or make a decision upon a matter that requires consideration of information that must be kept confidential pursuant to the state or federal law or a court order. You move on all of those, right, Roger?
Yes.
I second Roger's motion.
And there's a second by Anthony. Is there any discussion, members? Anyone? If not, I assume I have unanimous consent. Hearing no objection, we have unanimous consent, and the board will enter into executive session. The board has to stay here because of the people online. So everyone else, thank you. You must excuse yourself. Thank you. We're back from executive session. This is the Board of Directors meeting of HART. It's Friday, July 26, 2024, and it's approximately 10:20 a.m. In compliance with the Sunshine Law, summary of what was going on in executive session is that this board went into executive session to seek legal advice from our attorneys. We were given advice as to what the process of procurement is. The board did not get any information on the bid or the bidders, which would be a violation of the procurement law. Thank you very much. And now we will continue with the rest of the agenda. Now we're going to call agenda item number 2B, which is the monthly update on critical position recruitment. Anyone here to testify on this agenda item? Seeing none. Sandy, welcome.
This is an update of our open positions. Our current open positions total 16. Since the last HR committee meeting on July 11th, we focused on filling 2 positions, and that was the information specialist position, which is line item number 9 and 10, due to a resignation, and the accountant position, which is line number 4, due to an earlier than expected departure of the incumbent in that position. As of today, the interviews for all of these positions have been completed, and we have selected the candidates to fill those positions. Additionally, in the past meetings, we were requested to review our open positions and head count, so the review is currently in progress, and our report will be updated once we've collected all of the necessary data. Are there any questions?
Members, any questions on these?
Just one, Chair.
Yes.
I'm just wondering how many of these positions. So we've been able to prioritize 16 positions at the moment. We have these other whatever it is, 12, 17 positions. Actually, the numbers jump around a bit. I'm sure it's not. Yeah, it's about 16 positions. It looks like. How much do they become critical at the point where we issue a notice to proceed with the third segment? I mean, presumably there's not so much, it's not such a priority at the moment, but once that contract is let out, then it will become a priority. Is that right?
Well, not necessarily. A lot of the team from the AGS is going to transfer over to CCGS, but we just had a meeting with our managers earlier this week. This list is actually a little dated. So I asked the managers by actually today, go through this entire list. Are these still your priorities? And when Kiko brought up at the last HR committee, Lori, are there any positions that you could eliminate? So they've been tasked with that too. I said, go through the entire org chart and look at these positions, or even maybe it's not the right position. So maybe it's a civil engineer 5. Do you need a 4 instead? So they owe that information to myself and Sandy by the end of today.
Else? Sandy, I have a question. So what's the total number of positions? You have like 32 on here. How many positions, on the other chart we have city and
Staffing
field?
is 98. Correct.
Authorized, but how
Authorized.
much is
Right,
funded?
how many is actually filled to date?
I believe we have 41.
Filled.
Yes.
Does that include our 2 90-day, what I call the 90-day
Yes.
wonders?
It does.
So also, I noticed that Deputy Director of Construction Claims is 6/21/24, and Director of Design and Construction is 6/26/24, which was the date posted. So when did we lose those positions?
That's about when, so the Deputy Director of Construction Claims, he left right around there on June, right? Jonathan. And then when Matt got promoted, he was the Director of Design and Construction, so about that same time. I think
So
we owe
Matt
that
took
column.
the 6/26/24 slot.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think they've been asking Sandy for the date that it was vacated.
So
So
what
we
was
gotta have that
Matt's
column.
position before that?
I'm sorry.
Matt's position?
Matt's position before that?
Matt
If he
was
got,
the Director of Design and Construction, number 13.
no, that's, he filled that slot, right?
No, he was that slot. Now he's the Deputy
see.
Project Director.
Okay. Anything else, members? Thank you. Now we're going to go to committee reports. Anyone here to testify on committee reports? Hearing none, begin first with Finance Committee, Robert Yu, July 11th.
Thank you, Chair. The Finance Committee meet on July 11th, and we went over the close to year-end cash flow report and financial update, and there were no action items, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions, members? Okay. The July 11, 2024 meeting of the Project Oversight Committee, Kika.
Thank you, Chair. Your Committee on Project Oversight met on July 11th at 9 a.m. We reviewed the May Project Management Oversight Contractor Report, the PMOC report. We also took action on change orders for CCUR 4 as well as CCUR 4E, transfer of scope and change order for those two, as well as took action on resolution and referred to the board. All these items were referred to the board for further action. Resolution 2024-17, notice of eminent domain, as well as Reso 2024-19, request of approval to provide easement to Hawaiian Electric. That's it, Chair.
Okay, any questions, members? Now, the last report is the July 11, 2024 meeting of the Human Resources Committee. Michelle?
Yeah, hi, Chair. Your Human Resources Committee met on July 11th, and we discussed all of the items, but I have some updates to you. We talked about the personnel and vacancy update. We also talked about some staffing planning, but we didn't have a lot of progress there. We also talked about the process by which the Board of Directors' 9th voting member recruitment was going to go through, and we'll let Cindy give a short follow-up with how many applicants we received.
Okay,
Chair, we do have, are we going into the next agenda item?
why don't we take it up with the next agenda item?
Okay, we'll take it up in the next agenda item. We also talked about the Board of Directors' public relations function, and that we decided it was probably in our best interest to have the current public relations firm that's subcontracted brief the board. And so we're taking an action to get them on the agenda, to pull the contract documentation so we can see what the scope of work is and have them brief the board. And then we also discussed conversion of Hart Personnel Services contracts employees to civil servants, and then we adjourned.
Okay. I think that in the prior board meeting, I had asked for copies of PAN Communications contract through HDR.
Yeah, I don't think
Right.
we got those yet. Do we have those, Cindy?
I'm sorry, I thought they were provided. I mean, they're also on the Civil Beat website, but I thought we provided that to you folks. We'll send it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Well, I didn't get it. I'm sorry. How did Civil Beat get it before us? Okay. Anyway, anything else, Michelle?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Any questions, members? If not, thank you very much for all of your reports. Then we're going to go to agenda item number 4, which is the update on establishment of permitted interaction group to investigate the selection of Hart Board of Directors 9th voting member. Anyone here to testify on this matter? The reason why I have it on the agenda is just to make it very clear, because as you know, the board did a contingent kind of establishment of the PIG. It was based on whether or not we had more than 3 applicants for the position. And if it had more than 3 applicants, then the PIG would be kicked in. So with that, Cindy, do you want to tell us where we are so the rest of the board is aware? Not anything revealing the PIG, but just the number.
Yeah, so we did get quite a good response on the call for applications. We had a total of 9 applications come in. But 2 applicants withdrew, so that leaves us with 7 applications. So as the PIG was formed on a contingent basis, it will kick in, as you said, and begin to start that initial vetting process. And it's anticipated that the PIG will make the recommendation of 3 applicants to the full board.
Okay. So just so that we're clear, members, the Sunshine Law has been amended as to how we do the PIGs and the reports. So it's interesting in that they now require 6 business days for that report. So 6 business days for the report to be filed. So the board would have to convene to accept just simply the filing, no action taken. And at the next board meeting, which would be at minimally 6 business days later, then the board could take action on the 9th voting member. So with that, I just want everyone to be clear and also the public to be clear that, and I apologize to the PIG because you have a lot on your plate, those of you who are sitting on the Human Resources Committee, because you are part of that PIG. And I believe in this one, I don't think there's a violation to again state who was on the members of the PIG, right? And then I think it's Kika plus the 4 Human Resources. So thank you all for your hard work. So with that, any questions or comments from the members? If not, we'll move.
Chair?
Yes?
I was looking for an appropriate point in the agenda. I just wanted to make note of the fact that the mayor has reappointed Kika.
The mayor is not reappointing Kika. It's the city council.
Oh, it's the council, sorry, yes, the council just formally voted to reappoint Kika. And I thought it was an appropriate opportunity to, draws the public's attention to this. The volunteers on this board work extremely hard, and Kika is an example, a model to us all. He works extremely hard. He's passionate. We don't always see eye to eye, but that's because he takes it so seriously and works so hard. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to publicly thank him and acknowledge his work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, Chair, real
Yes.
quick, just want to thanks, Anthony, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kika. Well, thank you to all the members of this board because, as Anthony said, you are an extremely hardworking body. And I'm sure many who got on this board didn't expect that it would involve what it involves. And of course, our ex-official member, too bad you don't have a choice, but that's okay. So thank you, everyone. No other comments? Okay, we're going to move to agenda item number 5, which is all the eminent domain resolutions. As Krista comes up, is there anyone here to testify on the eminent domain issue? Anyone else? No? Okay, Krista, we'll begin with number A, Resolution 2024-3 to acquire by eminent domain an easement on a portion of the real property identified as tax map key 1-2-012-015 located at 2124 Kamehameha Highway, Honolulu, Hawaii 96819, and owned by Risa L. Villa and April H. Villa, trustees to Roman No. Anelalami Villa Raposa et al. Okay.
Chair, my presentation covers 3 resolutions. Do you want to?
At the same time?
Yeah, is that
Hold
okay?
on then. And we also have resolution number B, resolution number 2024-7 to acquire by eminent domain an easement on a portion of the real property identified as tax map key 1-2-002-113 located at 1808 Dillingham Boulevard, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96819, and owned by FMK Properties LLC. And resolution number C, resolution number 2024-9, to acquire by eminent domain an easement over a portion of real property identified as tax map key 1-2-026-007, located at 2310 Kamehameha Highway, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96819, and owned by Marukai Hawaii Company Limited. Members, we're gonna take them together unless there's an objection from anyone. At least permit Krista to do her presentation. And if anyone has any issues with any of these matters, then we will take them separately. And if anyone feels a need, we do have it agendized for executive session if necessary. However, I believe that this has already gone to the POC committee, so if anyone feels that need, you can, of course, ask for it.
Hello.
Krista.
Thank you, Chair.
Is this where I can speak?
Who is this Roma Raposa?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I had called for public testimony earlier.
I was trying to, I apologize, board. I was trying to get on. I'm not really familiar with these type of
I know what you
equipment,
mean.
technical equipment.
I know what you mean. I'm technically challenged as well. So why don't
Thank
you speak now before Krista begins her presentation? And can you first tell us, I have you on the screen as Roma Raposa. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I
Okay.
am Roma Raposa. I am the daughter of Riza Villa and April Villa,
Okay.
who is the trustee for the property.
Proceed.
Okay.
And you have 2
I would like-
minutes, Roma, just so you know,
Okay.
this is public testimony. Go ahead.
I got it. Understood. Upon reviewing the offer, there is identified some issues that I believe that merit reconsideration to adequately reflect the easement true value. The impact assessment, I would like to request a detailed reassessment of the easement that's impacting the property. The current offer needs to account for the intent of this impact fully and more thoroughly evaluation as necessary. Comparable properties, consider value of similar easements in the surrounding area. Comparing recent sales data for comparable properties will dominate need for higher conversation. Future development, there will be an impact of the future development of the easement on the of our property for consideration, which we would like to request that factor be taken into consideration. Also, we'd like to consider, have you folks consider 608 Puahali Road as an alternative to 2024 Camp Highway for negotiation. The property has been vacant for several years, although it has once was considered for a transformer installation. It was ruled out due to electrical design. However, the relocation of the electrical wiring underground at Puahali Road is planned for the future, from my understanding. And the vacant status and future electrical planning make it more suitable choice for the easement. Exploring this as an option may lead to more mutual beneficial agreement for the community's future development. Additionally, it's important to note that the vacant property has unfortunately become a magnet for homelessness and criminal activities. By combining the electrical easement for Camp Highway and Puahali Road, we can address this issue and contribute to reducing criminal activities and homelessness in the community. This dual-purpose approach will not only serve the immediate need for an easement, but also contribute to the overall well-being of the community, the safety of the community. So I would just want to kindly request that HART carefully review these points and consider them when reassessing the offer. Thank you for the time and this for letting me present this matter.
Thank you, Roma. You're right on time. Are you, or is the trust being represented by an attorney?
I don't have funds for that. So I'm trying to do all this on my own and try to get guidance from friends that might have a better understanding than I do. And this is what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to understand this whole process and these legal matters, which is very confusing at times.
I'm just asking, and thank you, you've been a very articulate person in setting forth your position. I'll call for any questions of Roma by any members. Anyone have any questions?
Chair.
Yes, Kika.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Roma, for your testimony. I was just wondering, the information that you provided in your testimony, is this new information or is this information that you had an opportunity to share with Hart previously?
It's been shared with Hart previously in negotiations, but it keeps coming back as the same results over and over again. I'm just trying to find other solutions because the property will diminish its value once that easement is taken over. We do have ideas of future planning on that property, which will not help us develop to its full potential. So, but it has been presented before, but it keeps getting kicked back to they're not going to, I guess, take what we want or what we say into consideration.
Okay, but you've had an opportunity to present it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Roma. We will hear what Krista has to say now. I don't believe there's anyone else to testify on this item. So thank you very much for your testimony. Krista?
Thank you.
First property overview is of the Villa Family Trust. The photo of the property is on the left and the easement area is shown on the map on the right. This is for underground utility lines and a transformer, and it's for a HECO easement. The next slide, please, is, sorry, mine is out of order. For FMK properties, the property is shown on the left and the easement area is on the right. This is also for underground lines and a transformer with access for maintenance. And then next slide, please. This is the Maracay property. The easement is shown on the right-hand side, and it is at the very front of the property along Kamehameha Highway. Next slide. It is necessary to relocate utilities along the Dillingham Corridor in preparation for construction of the Honolulu Rail Transit Project. Hart's acquiring the easements pursuant to the Hart and HECO Utility Inspection and Property Agreement of 2018. Hart presented offers prepared in compliance with the URA to the property owners and has been attempting to negotiate a settlement with each owner. To adhere to the project schedule, it's necessary to refer the matters for condemnation. Efforts will be made to continue negotiations with the owners with the goal of reaching an amicable and reasonable settlement. Easement rights will be assigned to HECO once the condemnations have been completed. Upon approval of the requested resolutions, condemnation actions will be filed with the First Circuit Court of Hawaii. Thank you.
Anything else, Krista?
That's, oh, Chair.
Any questions or comments from the members of the board?
Chair.
Yes. Okay,
Thank
Kika.
you. So, Krista, I think I have the right slide, but are we looking at, I think it's listed as easement A in the bottom right corner for the Raposo property?
That's correct.
How big is that? Am I reading it correctly? How big is the actual easement?
It's 11 feet by 9 feet.
Okay, and so that's for a transformer?
Correct.
Okay, so based on what you heard this morning from the testifier, I mean, can you share with the board the reasoning, I guess, what was taken into consideration and brought you to your conclusion and request to move forward?
I'm wondering if perhaps we should go to executive session. I guess I can maybe give a little bit of information about the location. As you all know, I'm not an engineer, but I'll try and let you know what I recall. So we did
Maybe I
ask.
can- Sorry, Krista, maybe I can rephrase. So you heard the testimony this morning. It was confirmed that the testifier was able to discuss this with Hart. So I'm assuming it was taken into consideration, but your recommendation today is to move forward as proposed.
That's correct. There was conversation with engineers about whether or not this location could be altered, and the information that came back to us was that it could not.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You done, Kika?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to check on one thing, which is that we see in green the underground line that's going to service that transformer. Is that an existing easement? Is that line already there? Or do we need an easement to access that line?
No, so right now the utilities along Dillingham are overhead, and they will be moved to underground. And the transformer, from what I understand, needs to be placed on this property, and it feeds a couple of neighbors of properties. And the underground line is within the easement area. It's not outside of that.
So there must be an existing easement for that line
No,
to go underground.
The line is overhead and it's in the right of way.
Oh, I see. And so the aerial easement that we have can be transferred to underground?
There isn't an easement because it's in the right of way. It's in the roadway.
Got it. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Any other questions or comments? Krista, I have one, and, oh, you have one? Go ahead, Roger.
So there'll be an underground line and there'll be a lateral connection to the transformer? Is that too?
That's a little more than I know, but it sounds familiar. I don't know if maybe Matt could step up for a moment. I really don't want to give the wrong information.
Okay.
This is the map.
See what I can provide.
It's going to service these properties.
So, Matt, I guess my question really is, right now, I assume there's an overhead line, there's a transformer on a pole, and there's a
overhead
connection
line.
to all the properties aerial. When you go underground, those connections will also go underground to connect to the buildings, or how does that work?
Currently, everything goes from overhead to underground. These were previously pole-mounted transformers, and that's why there's a need now to put one on the ground to locate that based on where the existing circuits are. And then, yes, all the service reconnections are generally now swept up underground to the existing buildings.
So they're because those will be on the property, and they'll basically be the property, the lines, the lateral lines. So, but there'll be undergrounding of those lines too, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was my question.
Anyone else? I have a question. I remember when we were looking at other of these easement requests, Krista, the question that I have is this for the line itself, or is this to service other homeowners in the area? And of course, it's related to Hart because of the fact that this then permits the undergrounding of the lines, but the actual area is not for the guideway, it is for the residences surrounding.
That's correct.
And that's because, now, having said that, with what Miss Roma, Roma said, is that the question is, she raised another property, and she said that that would be a better use of this transformer. So, because it seems to be this 100 square feet is what we're talking about. Because the lines, as you said, the undergrounding of the lines would be in the existing easement. So the location of that transformer, she said, should be on another property. Do you know which one of these properties is she referring to?
She's referring to the property on the right.
Is that lot X1, X-1-B?
That's correct.
And you said that that's not possible? Because it's right next door. And I think she testified that that property is vacant?
So the lines here come to this property, and these come here.
Got it. Without getting into like actual electrical engineering specifics, it just has to do with the way those properties are being fed, where the power is coming from the existing overhead, and how they feed all of those properties. So I'm sure that they looked at these circuits and placed that in the best place that they could. So without going back, or if I need to go back and check with the engineers, but I'm sure that they looked at this and optimized that location based on where the circuits are feeding and where they're going to.
Okay, but you can't tell me now why, because it looks like and I think she testified that, hey, it's right next door, and it looks like it would be next door. And
Agreed.
she said that the lot is vacant. Is that true, Krista?
It's a property that's not occupied, but there is a structure on that property, and it feeds from the other side of the road, not from Dillingham.
And I apologize, I wasn't here on the 11th when you had this discussion, but I am always concerned when we have an individual who's not represented by an attorney, and she says, it's just too expensive for them to hire somebody, and I don't want it to appear like we're not listening to what she has to say. So since we cannot go into executive session because you'd have to check with the engineers, I just want to note that.
And Chair, I understand, and we did look at it. I mean, we try very much to advocate for the owners, and we talked to the engineers. We looked at different scenarios. We looked at different options, and unfortunately, the feedback was that we cannot move it.
So which engineers did we talk to? Did we talk to our engineers, or did you talk to HECO's engineers?
We talked to our engineers who are in communication with HECO's engineers.
Who are our engineers?
AECom?
Okay. So they're not anybody in-house then? They're outside?
I'm sorry, it's part of a team.
Right, but they're
Yes.
not, but they're consultants. Well, no offense, you are too. So anyone else have any questions or comments on this?
Chair, follow up.
Yes, Kika?
Thank you, Krista. So, the testifier also mentioned that there could be some potential future plans for the property, and so there's some financial impact because of the easement. Did you folks take into consideration in making your proposed offer those potential financial or impacts to the property as a result of this easement?
We did.
And is it reflected in your proposed offer?
The information was given to the appraiser, and we've offered what the appraiser has valued the easement at.
And that's based on present value, present appraised value.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Chair, I was just wondering if I could ask the testifier, Ms. Raposa, I believe she's still online, what that location is currently used for. It looks like it might be a car parking slot. Is that what it's currently used for?
It is currently used for parking as of right now, but we do have plans to build on that property.
Okay.
The drawings was sent in because it was requested, so the drawings were sent in.
I see. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roger, do you have something? You have mics on. Oh. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Michelle.
Yeah, can I ask it to Ms. Raposa? When you say the drawings have been sent in, are you saying you are waiting for permitting?
No permits have been sent in, but we did have drawings of the exterior and of the layout of how we're going to utilize the property. But but no permits have been sent in.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions on any of the other, we did 3 presentations. I have one, and it's about the Marukai property. I thought I was here at a briefing on the Marukai property before. Now, from what I recall, Marukai is not in agreement with this potential condemnation, correct?
I don't think I can discuss our negotiations or our conversations with the owner in public.
Okay. You do say that the efforts were made to continue negotiation with the owners with a goal of reaching an amicable and reasonable settlement with each owner. Easement rights will be assigned to HECO once condemnation has been completed. So I assume from what you've said here that you haven't reached an agreement. I guess maybe that's the way I can put it. You haven't reached an agreement with Marukai.
That's correct. There are conversations that are ongoing.
And that's the largest easement that you're asking to condemn with 5,038 square feet
At this time, correct.
at this time. But aren't we authorizing you to do 5,038 square feet?
On the Marukai property, yes. I thought you were asking project-wide if it was our largest.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant, I'm reading your 5,038
Yes,
square
correct.
feet, which is the Marukai property.
That is correct.
That's correct, right? I think if I recall the presentation that I did hear, and again, my apologies for not being here on the 11th, is that Marukai is represented by attorneys, correct?
That's correct.
How about the FMK property? Are you dealing with attorneys there?
Yes, Chair.
Members, any questions on any of these?
Chair,
Yes.
I just have a final comment. Yeah, I just want to clarify that these items, on item number 5A, B, and C, were not heard at the July 11th committee. They were heard at previous POC committee hearings, but not at the 11th. And also want to share that, at least I don't recall, and I apologize if I'm incorrect, but I don't recall any testimony on resolution 2024-3 when it was heard in the POC, and the POC did unanimously approve and recommend approval to the full board for all 3 of these action items. And when the appropriate time, Chair, I do want to make a full disclosure regarding these items as they relate to Hawaiian Electric. I am employed by IBEW 1260, and Hawaiian Electric is a signatory to our organization.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so members, having no other discussion, no one is asking that we go into executive session on this, as I can see. So with that, how would you like to proceed on this? Do you want to do it by one resolution? I can tell you my personal feeling on this is, given the fact that we have now received testimony from an individual on 2024-3, I would like to, and I see the map itself, and I personally have a difficulty going forward on that resolution without hearing from the engineers as to why we need to do that particular location, especially when it looks like the adjoining property is, not too far away. And I can't see how not being able to access it is a problem. However, that's just my personal opinion on the Vila Family Trust property. So with that, members, somebody can make an appropriate motion on this, and,
Chair, excuse me, Chair.
right, I'm sorry.
I just would like to make a comment that these particular easements are part of ongoing construction, and timing is getting to be critical. And while I understand your concerns, and perhaps you'd like to hear from an engineer, but this has been reviewed, and they have decided that it cannot be moved. And if we delay another 30 days, that is going to have an impact on the Dillingham construction. We're at a point where every day counts. Thank you.
This is Krista. I go to Marukai all the time, so I'm kind of familiar with this whole area. And I don't know why you feel that hearing from the engineers would not be something that we cannot wait on this specific property. I just feel that when somebody comes before the board unrepresented, but pleading her family's case, that personally I would like to hear from the engineers as to why this can't be moved over. I mean, I'm looking at your exhibit and it looks, I don't see why. And I'm very sensitive to the fact that we're not talking about the project per se. We're talking about servicing the neighborhood so that those lines can go underground. I realize that. And what we're talking about is the location of a transformer. Because the undergrounding of the lines themselves are in the easement, so that's not the issue. I understand that. That's why I said for me personally, I don't want to support this unless I hear from the engineers as to why no other location is reasonable. And I don't believe that it's going to, you can continue down Dillingham, you can underground the lines, and you have the transformers, but you know, the transformers, and Matt can clarify this, if you underground the lines and the transformer issue becomes something that we have to be sensitive to, you still have to connect to all the neighborhoods. And this is an older neighborhood, so I'm not sure how the various properties have been accessed.
Chair,
Yes.
I have a quick question. AECom is here, right? I mean, they're in this building. Couldn't they just come down and talk about it? Or is that, or we have to be?
It would be one of their subs, most likely. It would be one of their electrical subcontractors. So it's not AECom directly, most likely, doing this electrical design. It's probably a subcontractor is my guess. So
Yeah,
it's
but
not someone who's in building right now.
Right, but AECom being the general on this, they oversee the subcontractors, right? And they have to review the subcontractors' work. So I'm sure there are someone from AECom that's embedded in this organization that would be familiar with it. Or is the subcontractor the only person or firm that knows about this and no one else about, you know, the arrangement, whether the other property is or was considered?
I would want to give them ample time to refresh their memory and take a look at this again, rather than just asking them to come down without having the opportunity to do that. I just wanted to point out the timing, and if
no,
if
I
it's decided
understand.
to wait, then that's what we will do.
Right. Well, the thing is, you know, with respect to the timing, I could totally understand that everything is critical, but it seems like for this type of information, it seems like if the board doesn't act on it, the common thing to say is, well, if you don't vote on it today, the project will be delayed. You know what I mean? I don't know whether that's totally true, or is that something that is, you know, that we say just to say it, right? I cannot imagine, you know, having the board getting a little bit more information would completely delay, you know, CCUR or whatever.
Isn't this the guideway issue? This isn't CCUR.
The utility work is being done under the CCUR contracts.
So this is CCR what?
This is
3, 4?
CCUR 4.
This is CCR 4. This is the NAN contract.
Yep.
So we know that we have issues with the electrical issues with NAN. That's why we're gonna have are we gonna have a discussion on their amended contract?
Yes.
So I guess I find it difficult to believe that this is so time sensitive when NAN doesn't even have its change order yet.
The change order for NAN is actually to de-scope electrical work and put it into the 4E electrical contract. So it's consolidating electrical work.
So are you saying that the 4E contract is in jeopardy if we don't approve this now?
The overall schedule is kind of a dance between the two of the way the infrastructure project finishes and then the way the electrical project follows behind that to cut those circuits in and drop it all. It's all a schedule coordination, and it's a lot of moving one utility out of the way first so that then you can install the infrastructure for another. So there's times where getting some of this work done clears up the ability to continue with follow-on work.
So is it your testimony, Matt, today to this board that we have to approve it today? And we cannot ask, and I'm not saying this is what the board's going to decide. This is my personal issue. So are you saying, as you sit there today, that we have to approve it today? Because, if Kika is correct, and I wasn't here, that this is not something that came up in the July 11th issue, then it would have come out with the POC before that. So obviously there wasn't it wasn't imminent so that we took it up at that following board meeting. Because if we didn't take it up if it wasn't in July 11th, it would have come up in the earlier one and there would have been an intervening board meeting.
Chair, if you recall, once we first start out with a resolution that allows us to notify the city council, and then we notify the city council and we have to wait 45 days. Once that 45 days is up, then we try and get back on the agenda in order to come back. So we've gone through that process. This is the last part of that process. So we've already expended time. And again, if it's decided to defer, we'll work with the schedulers and do what we have to do. I'm just pointing out that we are getting to a point where I'm concerned.
Well, I guess my question to Matt is its testimony today that we have to approve it today? And that's all, because he's the engineer. Is it that it has to be done today?
I'd have to go back and talk with the schedulers to know how critical it is. I don't know this specific
But
property.
wait a minute, you just told us it was critical. So how critical is it? I mean, if it's really critical, wouldn't you be able to tell me it's really critical?
Design feeds our needs to Krista's group, then Krista starts to acquire those properties. When she gets to a point, especially when it's dealing with eminent domain, she's always backtracking her schedule based on the need date that gets given to them. That need date comes out of the schedule that the contractors are working, and that's being resequenced almost weekly at this point based on unidentified issues that they run across. So for a real-time snapshot of how this property falls into the construction schedule currently, I'd want to go back and check with the schedulers before I made a commitment of that magnitude to you right here.
Chair,
Yes.
quick. So Matt, could you tell us, just an estimate, how much schedule contingency did you guys build in for CCUR? I mean, it seems like, I understand it's critical that we have to approve it, but I want to know, what the schedule contingency is so we could have some kind of an idea.
I think we'd have to bring the schedulers down, and you're looking at a holistic overall schedule analysis, talking contingency versus where does this fall in the sequencing of the work they're trying to get done right now. And I don't have the answer for that.
Overall CCUR 4,
Yeah.
it's a day-to-day delay. This is the critical path of the entire project. So I don't, if you're asking specifically for this transformer, we don't know how detailed that is. And so to put Matt on the spot today, does the board have to approve it today? That's a very difficult position to put him in. The question is the board willing to, if we bring the engineers to try to find, is the board going to schedule another separate special board meeting, or do we have to wait till next month? That's
Chair, I would be willing to wait for the subcontractor to either come here in person today or to log in online. I mean, I don't have a hard stop. I have all day to wait for the if the sub is the only person that knows about this, then personally, I'm willing to wait if it's that critical for us to vote on this today. I don't know. I mean, Matt was saying AECom doesn't know.
Basically want
and
to have the
sub-
designer come and defend the reason that the design is where it's at. And I said, that's a subcontractor to AECom. It's one of their electrical designers. I'd have to check with them, their availability to come and present.
They don't
this
have to come
design.
in person. They could be online.
But
They can call. Yeah.
we
Chair,
already
could I
know,
ask,
we already know
Krista-
that
Wait a minute.
Kika,
Go ahead, wait a
Kika
minute.
has a hard stop, so we're going to lose quorum anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
Krista, if we were to ask you to look at the possibility of going to the property next door, the vacant property that Ms. Raposa talked about, and we were to start eminent domain proceedings on that, what sort of a time frame are we looking at to be able to complete that process, optimistically speaking?
At least 12 months.
Okay.
And it's a historical property.
Next door is a historical property.
That's the same one, Chair, that you and I were looking at with Chair Waters on the
Property next to it.
property next to it, so that, I know you can't tell from this photo, but it's that blue building, because we're having the same issue going up Pu'uhale. So you and Chair Waters had an issue with that. That property is historic.
Thank you for remembering that.
But this is 100 square feet. The transformer. Yeah. And then in the next property over, I assume it looks like it's a parking lot too. But Roger, do you have anything further? Your mic is on.
I'm just waiting to make to make a
Okay.
proposal.
Anyone else? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think we should take these one by one, just because there's some disputes. So I would move, first of all, that Resolution 2024-7 be approved.
Seconded.
Okay, 2024-7, which is the FMK Properties. We have a motion and a second that we approve Resolution 2024-7. Any discussion? Hearing none, do we have unanimous consent? Hearing no objection, that resolution is approved.
And I would further move that Resolution 2024-9 be approved.
Seconded.
The motion and the second is on Resolution 2024-9. This is the Marukai property. Any discussion, members? Not? Do we have unanimous consent? We do. So Resolution 2024-9 is also approved.
And I would further move that Resolution 2024-3 be approved.
There's a
Second.
motion, a Resolution 2024-3, which is the Vila Family Trust, that be approved. Is there a second?
Second,
There's a
second.
Me too.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, members? If not, well, we can't have unanimous consent because I would not vote for it. So, can we take I guess a roll call vote on this
Chair, is there
particular?
going to be discussion on this?
Oh, yes, discussion. I thought we had more than enough discussion on it, but please, discussion.
Yeah, I guess discussion on the motion to approve.
All right.
And so, again, I mentioned that this did go through POC. And, as much as I empathize for the testifier and, it was heard, there was no testimony. If there had been testimony given at the POC, then I think we would have had ample time to take the kind of actions that we're contemplating here today, by calling in engineers and whoever else we need to call in to confirm the reason why this particular site is needed. I think if we contemplate other locations, we're gonna have to confront, or we're gonna have to deal with similar, potentially similar arguments why they don't feel their property should be used for these purposes. So, I have to believe that Hart and their staff went through the proper process. As I heard from Krista today, they took into consideration the financial impact. They had a third-party appraisal on the property to factor into the proposed settlement with the property owners. And this is a critical path for the project. And based on all of those reasons, I feel that we should move forward at this point with this resolution. As the chair of the POC, I feel that we should move forward with this resolution.
Thank you, Kika. I believe the reason why I am difficulty with this is that when individuals who are not represented by attorneys, even under court rules, you will know that they are given a lot more leeway. And I think that we, as a government entity, the fact that they did not come forward on our deadline is a statement in and of itself. And yes, I believe that the board and probably Krista and everyone has given them ample opportunity. However, I just have a difficulty when an unrepresented person takes the time to come to this board, voices a concern, and we cannot give them an answer other than the fact that, we scheduled this, you didn't come before, and so forth and so on. So personally, I have a problem with it, and I would like to know what the engineers did to actually come forward. And again, yes, this is a matter of an undergrounding of lines and a transformer, but it's not necessarily, it is not necessarily, it is not for the guideway itself. It is for the residential areas surrounding it, and it is to take care of the so that we can continue with the construction. That's my feeling on it. It's nothing other than the fact that I believe that when individuals come forward, that we should give them consideration. And yes, I agree that she probably should have come forward sooner. But having said that, they have come forward now. And that's my sentiment, but that's just me. Anyone else?
Chair,
Anthony?
yeah, I'd like to add to what both you and Kika have said, because I too have a lot of sympathy for Ms. Raposa, and I do think it's incumbent on the board to be very careful when it exercises this power that we have, even for a space as small as a car parking slot. But given that we've heard testimony from Hart that this is on the critical path, and we know, I think, there's 1 or 2 days wiggle room in our critical path at the moment, and Krista has said that negotiating with the adjacent property could potentially take up to another year. I personally don't feel that I can stand in the way of this. What I would request is, while this moves forward, if there's any way that we could talk again to AECOM or whoever the subcontractor is, to see if there's any way that it could be shifted into the other property, because just intuitively looking at the map, they abut each other, those two spots. The spot where Ms. Raposa is suggesting that the substation go. So intuitively, it doesn't look like it would be impossible to do. So that would be what I would like to suggest, is that even as we move forward with this process, that we do ask the engineers to take another look at it and see if there's a way that they could. And of course, that then throws open the whole question of whether the property next door would be open to allowing us to use that property, to selling us the rights, the easement. If they were agreeable, then obviously it could be done quite fast. But if they were to be in opposition, then we would be looking at a year's delay. So I think we have to give Hart this authority right now.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Robert?
just have a comment before I vote yes or no. I just want some reassurance from the Hart staff that the subcontractor or the subcontractor engineering firm has considered all the stuff that we talked about. And if you say yes, they have considered all the stuff, including the other properties and everything, then I would vote yes on it. If the answer is no, that they did not, or you're not sure, then I would rather have that person affirm to come in to tell us that, yes, all these things were considered. It doesn't work. This is the only possible solution. Then I'm okay with it. As long as you could give me that assurance, I'm good with voting yes.
Yes, I know that they considered moving the transformer to the property next door, and they decided that they could not do that.
Yes, Roger.
So I think in the testimony that you gave, Krista, was that if the board does approve this, that you will continue to negotiate with the landowner.
That's correct.
May I modify my one to say that I think it should be approved with the understanding that Hart will continue to negotiate with the landowner and also consider other options to the extent that they are feasible.
Wait a minute, you're doing an amendment to your motion? Is
More
that
or
what you're
less,
doing?
yeah, that's what I was asking, or I could take Anthony doing a friendly amendment to mine.
I'll make that friendly amendment because essentially what I just been saying, yeah.
Okay, so we have a friendly amendment. Do you have a second? Well, wait a
Hang
minute.
on.
We have a motion and we have a second, and you have technically withdrawn your motion and you're making a friendly
Or I'm
amendment.
asking, Anthony's gonna make the friendly amendment.
Well, Anthony's making the friendly amendment. Is there a second to Anthony's friendly amendment?
Hang on, Chair.
Right.
Point of order, please. There's a motion on the floor. I think we have to dispose of the motion first before we take any other motions. I think the proper thing to do is, Roger, to amend your motion, and then I'll revise and amend my second. And I think that's the proper way to do it.
And is that okay, Chair?
I think that that's okay, as long as, but it's gonna be contingent upon whether Kika seconds your amendment to your own motion. If Kika does not second your amendment, then what's going to happen is that we're gonna have to decide it, and procedurally, I do not believe that you can, I mean, another friendly amendment can be made when we have a pending motion. So I think Kika is correct on that. We would have to vote down your motion, the original motion, and a new motion would have to be made. So if Kika is gonna go along with your friendly amendment, and that's up to you, Kika, then we can proceed accordingly.
Could I just ask a quick question
Yes.
with the friendly amendment? Got a little confused here. So in Hart's presentation, they specifically says efforts will be made to continue negotiations with the owner with the goal of achieving a reasonable settlement with each owner. Now, is putting that in the motion make it more, I don't know.
This
More-
is just my reaction.
Yeah.
I don't know how that can continue when it's imminent.
Oh, okay.
So in
well,
other words, if you can't come here, in my opinion, and say, this is time sensitive, we gotta get it done now. You cannot say that and at the same time do this friendly amendment. So if we do the friendly amendment, what we're telling them is you have a conditional approval, but you have to continue to do all these steps.
Yeah.
Right? And if
That's
that's,
my
if that's what is being discussed, then they don't have a carte blanche to do what the resolution says. They cannot go to condemnation. They have to come back to the board. And you're right. What's in that's my concern, because that's why I said, how eminent is this? When you say you're gonna continue to negotiate on something that is gotta be done because it's time sensitive, how can you do that? It's contrary to what's logical. So having said that, I understand what you're saying. It has to have that friendly amendment if we want to see something continue on this.
okay. Then it's no different than we waiting till the next meeting to vote on this. Because,
Chair,
okay, now I'm really confused.
Yes, Kika.
sorry, I believe, and Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, or Krista, correct me if I'm wrong. If I understand Krista's representation that they will continue to work with the property owner, I believe Roger's amendment, and Roger, correct me if I'm not hearing you right, that we would motion to approve this resolution to move forward with eminent domain, subject to Hart continuing to work with them as they move forward on finding the best compromise that they can. But the action is to approve moving forward with the eminent domain.
Yeah, but the thing is,
That's
once
my
you put,
understanding.
yeah, but once you put subject to me, that means someone has to come back to us and say, you know what, we exhausted all avenues to
Then
come
maybe
to a
I used the
conclusion.
maybe I used the wrong wording. I believe it's with the understanding that, I think Roger just wants to reaffirm that Krista and her group will continue working with the property owner to find an amicable and reasonable resolution if there is one. But we need to move forward with the eminent domain.
Yeah, then the question is, does the board want to make sure that it is reaffirmed? I mean, I'm okay either way, but once you put some kind of condition on your motion, that means how are you going to confirm whether Hart met the condition? That's all I'm asking.
I think from my perspective, I think the resolution would direct Hart to do that,
To continue to negotiate.
to continue to negotiate, which has been represented as their intention anyway. So this be the board making that a direction to Hart, that they continue to do that and they continue to look to see if there was an amicable solution to this matter.
Yeah, so do we want to know that?
I think
Yeah.
what is happening here, it's going to be to what extent does this board want to ensure that it happens,
That's right.
right? So if the board wants to ensure that they just don't get, okay, eminent domain, okay, we'll call them one day and say, okay, this is, what do you guys change your position? Nope, okay, we did it. So if we want to know that in fact that Hart has done a good faith effort, because what is contrary to me right now is what is said in the last page of Krista's presentation, that you continue to negotiate. How can you continue to negotiate in good faith when you say that it's imminent? And if you got to do it and it's going to affect the critical path and whatever else, how can you continue to negotiate in good faith?
So, and there's, excuse me, Chair, there's two parts to condemnation, and one is getting possession, and one is the valuation issue. So we do, when an issue has to do with valuation, we do continue to negotiate even while the court process is taking place. We do not make people wait until the jury trial to figure out what the price is of that easement or that property. But what's critical is getting possession, and that's what condemnation allows us to do. It allows us to get to the possession so that the construction team can do what they need to do timely. So there's two parts to condemnation, and it's not just about dollars sometimes, and sometimes it is. And then that's where we do continue to negotiate. We do talk with the owners, and we look at what they have to provide us to show that maybe there is a higher value warranted. We can't just, under a federally funded program, give more money because somebody wants more money. It has to be backed up. It has to be based on valuation data. So we do continue those conversations. They do not stop just because we get approval to condemn.
I understand that. But the question is, what is the effort that is being done when, in fact, once the board gives you the condemnation right? Because that seems to be the whole ball of wax. If you don't want to settle, and like you said, under the federal laws, you can only go so much, then that's your position. And I'm sure you've already given that position, or you wouldn't be before us. So the only question that we are dealing with now, I believe, is what does Roger's friendly amendment to his, if he does that, to his resolution mean? And does it mean, as Robert is implying, that you need to keep us apprised of what's going on? And you just don't disappear, and this whole issue just doesn't disappear. So we know what's done. And then for the board's perspective is, does the board feel that Hart has done everything that it possibly can, and not just simply just shine this thing on by saying it's in a critical path, it's imminent, we gotta have it, but then we're gonna continue to negotiate? Do you see what it is? I mean, and so what you're doing is you're using the condemnation. And I believe once you get condemnation rights, then that's it. That's it. Yeah, if you want to settle, but you can't. But it's like saying, okay, we have the right to this property now. We're going to go to court. We're going to get the rights to the property, and you know, what does it do to people like Miss Roma, who is coming forward, doesn't have an attorney, hasn't participated in this process before. Rightfully, she should have, but she hasn't. So what is it that the board wants to do to assure her, or assure the process and the people, that we're just not in here to just go condemn property? But that's up to the board to decide. I understand. I do know that it's a two-step process. It is a two-step process. Yes.
Well, the other point is that in fact, it seems to me what we're asking potentially is not just that Hart go back to negotiate with the Raposa Trust, but that we start potentially negotiating with the property owner next door, that we're asking AECOM to actually explain why they couldn't move this. It's a lot more than just saying, we're giving you the right to condemn, and in the meantime, go ahead with your conversations with the property owner. What we've been talking about is bigger than that. We're talking about actually moving the transformer onto another property. And my biggest concern about that is that potentially it could take a year, and that obviously would have impacted the critical path. So I don't know how we can ensure that it's an honest conversation. As you say, they could just say, well, we've got the condemnation. Well, you can't do it. Okay, you can't do it. And that's the end of the story. And we haven't really achieved anything despite talking about it for half an hour here.
Chair.
Yes.
Hopefully it's my last comment. So it seems like this whole conversation revolves around that this property is not represented by an attorney, where in the past, many negotiations are represented by an attorney. So we are kind of deviating somewhat from what we normally do, because the landowner is not represented by an attorney. So I would think, I'm not sure whether we should deviate from what we normally do, because there's no attorney present on the other part for the other party. I think I'll just take Hart's word on it that they will continue negotiation, because that's what we do with previous condemnations. And I also would trust that all the other options were considered by the engineer. So it almost seems like that the original motion of approving it seems like it's the cleanest motion, Chair. That's just my take on this whole thing.
Okay, so what do you want to do?
Well, my motion's still on the table. I
Yes.
guess it hasn't been amended. I agree with Robert. That's the cleanest way to go. I don't know if we have the votes to do it, but we can let the chips fall where they will.
And we have a second? So,
We had a second.
right? Yes. Yes, Kika, sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to add that I heard in the testimony that the testifier is not, what they were requesting was to reconsider some of the valuations. And I think that's what Krista is representing, that they are willing to do. And, again, I don't know if at the end of the day, it may or may not change the outcome because, but I think I would propose that we give Hart the ability to move forward with this eminent domain, given the fact that it's gone through the process, and I'm assuming that it's gone through a fairly lengthy process. I agree with what Robert has said as well. So I stand on my second, and I hope that we can move forward.
Well, as you know, you need every single vote to make this
I'm aware of
pass.
that, Chair.
And I've expressed my concern about going forward with this as it stands. So I would like to have, I believe, as Krista says, that it's a two-step process. What would be eminent would be, or what is necessary would be the condemnation. The valuation portion of it, however, is something else. And I do not believe that that's tied to what Matt is saying as to how eminent we need to do this. We need to have the condemnation. So if the friendly amendment were to go forward, that the condemnation is one thing. However, the valuation negotiations is something that is done in good faith by Hart. And in addition to that, we get some kind of report. And you can make it in a month or whatever, that we get that report. And that would not affect the condemnation portion of it. It would be on your negotiation portion, which is something that you talk about in terms of valuation. And if you go to court, you're going to go to court. So that's my concern. But I do not believe that simply, without any kind of, quote, hook on this, that we know that good faith negotiations have taken place, I have a difficulty with this. And that would be a report back to the board as to what happened on the negotiations and the valuation portion of it versus the actual condemnation. Do you see the difference that I'm drawing, Krista?
I believe I do, but just to be clear, once we file condemnation, that does start that process.
Right.
Okay. And valuation is part of the process. So you're saying that you understand that the court process would go on, but we would work with the Villa Family Trust on the value portion, knowing that the court matter was still moving forward. Am I clear?
But the
Do I understand?
condition is that you report to the board.
And I report back to the board.
We have to tell the board what you have done to address this issue. And if in the board's opinion, you have done whatever you can do, as opposed to just simply saying, we have the condemnation right, and because we have the condemnation right, we're just going to make you this last and best final offer, so to speak.
And I can make that report while I am moving forward with the condemnation.
That's what I would anticipate your motion would be. Yeah. And if Kika would do the friendly amendment, which I don't think would be something that he would be opposed to, and then the rest of us on the board who has difficulty with this issue, because we do have somebody from the public who has come forward to express her concern about the property that they have and they had plans for, and we can then see whether or not we have done everything we can to assist a private citizen who has a problem.
Chair, I just got one question that just occurred to me, which is, given that Ms. Raposa has said that they have plans drawn up for how to use this precise location, I'm not sure have you seen those plans? Do we know if the AECOM or the subcontractor saw them? And is there any way that we could ask them to see if a transformer could be incorporated into their plans while affecting it to the minimum amount possible?
The plans have been reviewed.
They have.
They've been taken into consideration.
And AECOM, whoever it is, the subcontractor of AECOM, have looked at it and said there's nothing we can do to move this around. It's got to be the way we say in that corner.
That's why it's as far over in the corner as possible.
Thanks.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey,
Michelle?
I have a question for Krista.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so the valuation, how is it different between somebody that, I mean, I could say I have a plan to put Disneyland on my property, right? Is it different if they are actually in the middle of a permitting process? Or is it like if you don't actually have an active permit, like we have to treat it a certain way? How does that work?
So the appraiser appraises the property at its highest and best use. So if its highest and best use is as it's developable, then that is how they consider it in the appraisal. Knowing that there's a plan for development, they do take a look at that, and then there's a number of things that they look at as to, whether it's needs to be subdivided with another property, or is it feasible, is it practical, is it permittable, things like that. It's my understanding from my recollection that the value of this property is in the land. There are no improvements on it. And so its highest and best use would be looked at as most likely being purchased for adding an improvement to it or for development. I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
I think it kind of did. It sounds like what you're saying is that there is some judgment in terms of how they do the calculations, but in general, it would need to be developed in order to get a higher valuation than what you're valuing it at now, which is just land.
Yeah, so the owner gets the benefit of the doubt, I guess is the best way to say it. If
The owner gets the benefit of the doubt. Oh,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
that's different.
they get the value in its highest and best use.
Including its highest and best use, if it's used in conjunction with the rest of the property, for example.
Right, so the
Like, you could put a
property as a
building on
whole,
it, and it's like a little bit smaller, then you take off the smaller part of the building, and that's kind of like what they get.
yeah, you value the property in its entirety at its highest and best use. And then you consider the impact of the easement and you value it with that easement. The difference between those two values becomes the value then of the easement. So whatever that impact is on the property, the amount that a buyer would expect to pay less because of the easement, that becomes what we pay for the easement.
Okay, thank you.
Went on. So right now, we have the motion. Well, any other discussion? If not, we have a motion to approve resolution number 2024-3. And we have a second. So if it stands as it now is worded, I am a no vote. Which means that this motion will not pass. Yes, Kika?
Chair, I thought we were just discussing Roger's friendly amendment.
No, Roger withdrew his friendly amendment.
So you tell me would be more appropriate for Kika to make it or someone else?
No, Kika needs to do the second, and Kika did not say that he was going to do the second.
May I amend my motion? I'd like to amend it to provide to go forward with condemnation, but to require Hart to continue to negotiate with the landowner as to value, and for Hart to take a good faith look at whether there were any other options for this, but to not delay the project by so doing. That's my request for amending the motion.
And that they report back to the board.
And that they report back to the board.
Kika, would have been his friendly amendment, but in order for us procedurally to do this, I said you would have to concur with that friendly amendment. And if
Right.
not,
And-
then we would probably vote down the original motion and somebody else could make the motion.
So I agree and I amend my second.
Amend the second. So with that, I am going to permit the friendly amendment and the second. So members of the board, do we have any further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? And we do. Okay, thank you very much. And you will report back to the board.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Members, we now go to agenda item number 6, which is resolution number 2024-19, approving and recommending that the City and County of Honolulu grant a perpetual easement to Hawaiian Electric Company, Inc., HECO, for the electrical purposes serving the Honolulu Rail Transportation Project, HRTP, on property located at 1819 Dillingham Boulevard, Honolulu, Hawaii 96819, identified as tax map key number 1-2-003-016. Is there anyone here to testify on this resolution? Can I ask for a quick break? So back in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Cindy. Cindy. Cindy.
For a short break. Anyone here to testify on agenda item number 6? Nope. With that, Krista.
Thank you, Chair. If you want to advance to the next slide, we have, again, maps, first of all, an overhead view of the property. The easement area is shown on the right-hand side. It's for a transformer. Hart acquired this property in April of 2014 for $1.1 million. The easement area will include a transformer and protective bollards. The facilities are part of the city center utility relocation project and will serve the public. Relocation of the utilities is necessary to allow for construction of the rail project. HECO requires an easement for long-term operations and maintenance of the electrical facilities. It's a responsibility of Hart to provide HECO with the property needs, the property rights necessary for the electrical needs of the project. Therefore, there'll be no compensation paid by HECO for this easement. Next slide, please. Once, this is just a reminder of the disposition process. So once this resolution is passed, we do still have to go before the city council to get approval to execute an easement to HECO. Thank you.
Members, any questions or discussion? Because you have something? Or you just?
Yeah, I just want to let you know, Chair, I again, this actual action item was heard in July 11th POC, and it was recommended to move forward to the full board for approval. I just want to apologize. I do have a hard stop at 12. I would try to change and stay, but unfortunately I have to catch a flight, and that's why I can't go much longer than that.
Okay, understood. Any other questions?
Chair, I'd like to move that we approve Resolution 2024-19.
Is there a second? And there's a second. Is it moved and seconded? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Do we have unanimous consent? We do. This resolution is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is change orders number 7. Agenda item number 7, which is change orders, CCUR Roman numeral 15, it's Roman numeral basically 4, transfer scope of CCUR 14 to CCUR, 15-E, Roman numerals. And B, CCUR 15-E, that's Roman numeral, to transfer scope from CCUR 15 Roman numeral to CCUR 15 Roman numeral -E. I think these are related, so we should take them together. I think, members, we are familiar with this. You guys have, anyone here to testify on agenda item number 7? Hearing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, Directors. Matt Scanlon, Deputy Project Director. As you noted, we're here to ask for approval for 2 change orders. The first one I'm going to go through is a deduction from CCUR 4. We're requesting approval to transfer scope from CCUR 4 to CCUR 4E. The credit amount would be approximately $9.1 million. The scope to be transferred includes wood poles, steel poles, and 138 kV pole foundations. Building reconnects will also be de-scoped from the CCUR 4 contract. Quick background on this. This is the non-contract that was awarded in August of 2022 for approximately $496.2 million. There's been 1 change order issued to date for $500,000, bringing the current contract value to approximately $496.7 million. The substantial completion date on this contract is December of 2025. Quick background on this, on both changes, is because the CCUR 4E drawings were issued after the CCUR 4 contract had been awarded and included additional scope of work that impacted the CCUR 4 contract. It's beneficial for the project to transfer the relevant high voltage electrical work, the base scope, and additional work to the CCUR 4 electrical contract instead of adding the additional scope to the CCUR 4 contract. The increased long lead item material procurement delays delay the building reconnects, and they've already been included in the CCUR 4E bid price, and that's why they'll be de-scoped from the 4 contract. The additional scope of work is discussed in the corresponding CCUR 4E transfer of scope contract. This shows you that this is a unit rate priced contract, so the credit amount was very easy to calculate. We basically just did a quantity takeoff based on the unit prices agreed to in the contract, minus some wood poles that were already installed and some materials that were already procured. Those will be transferred to the CCUR 4E contract as Hart Furnished Materials. This is the buildup of the $9.1 million credit. The benefits to the Hart by transferring this work is having one contractor perform all the 138 kV foundations and pole installations. This improves coordination with HECO, and it's more cost effective, reducing potential conflicts with 2 contractors working in the same area as once. So again, the requested action is to approve a contract change order in the amount of $9.1 million. These funds would revert to allocated contingency. We would further request the board's approval to transfer that credit amount to the allocated contingency for the CCUR 4E contract. If you want to take these together, I can give you the next presentation as well, unless you have questions about that one.
Because it is related.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to jump into the other change order real quick, and then we'll take questions. So this is the change order that would then transfer the scope into the CCUR 4E electrical contract. So here we would be requesting the board's approval to add and transfer scope from the CCUR 4 contract to the 4E contract in the amount of $20.3 million. The scope to be transferred includes wood poles and attachments, steel poles, 138 kV pole foundations. This includes temporary and permanent steel casing. We're also asking to additionally replenish our field change notice allowance funds. This change is being handled in 2 parts. There was a provisional sum for long lead items that was already executed for $5 million. This was to get the 138 kV rebar cages and the permanent casings on order and heading this way. This change order covers the remaining scope of work. So quick background on this. This is a contract for the electrical work on 4. It's with HMS Construction. It was awarded last December for $72.1 million. There's been one change order to date that we just talked about for $5 million for the long lead items. The current contract value is 77.1, and their substantial completion is February of 2026. Same background that I read for the last scope, so I'll try to save us time, but this had to do with when the E contract and the associated design was completed. The negotiation summary on this, you see again, it's just a straight, our unit prices of what the wood poles were and the 138 kV pole foundations. There's the buildup. We're also, again, real quick, the $700,000 is for a field change notice allowance to replenish that based on this scope of work and anticipated issues we might run into. So again, real quick, same benefit. This is really just consolidation of work to have the electrical contractor perform everything from the foundations all the way up through poles and cabling. And so the requested action on this is an approved change order in the amount of $20.3 million. This scope of work will be funded from allocated contingency. With that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions, members? Yes, Anthony?
I was just going to clarify, so the net increase in the value of the cost of the full scope is about 11 million, right? From the 9, you're transferring the 9 million from the full
Yes.
scope. So it's net, it's about 11 million.
Correct.
Any other questions? Yeah, Kika?
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to, and kind of dovetailing off of Anthony's question or clarification. The, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but the increase in the transfer of funds is due to the fact that, as he mentioned earlier, the design wasn't completed until after the money was already appropriated. And so the increase is due to the designs being completed and additional foundational work that's required for these poles, which is makes up the difference between the transfer. It was heard in POC and passed unanimously out of POC to be recommended to the board for approval.
Any other comments or questions? I have a question. If I recall this when it started, it was because NAN really didn't have the capabilities to do the electrical work. Wasn't that correct?
It was originally in NAN's contract because initially the poles were just simply viewed as part of the infrastructure. Once we awarded the contract to them, they initially started talking to us about their concerns and hesitation in erecting the 138 kV poles and what would be required. Working with our electrical contractors, we realized, they were probably right, that this would be best to be with the high voltage electrical contractor and transfer that scope. And that was really before we even understood that there was additional scope that was going to change these foundations. But yes, early on, NAN said that it's really not the ideal scenario to have them erecting the 138 kV poles, knowing the holdoffs that were necessary and that the electrical contractor would have to be involved in that process.
And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just by recollection, HMS was actually working with Coluccio. Weren't they Coluccio's electrical contractor? So they sort of stepped up and took over CCUR 4 too.
Yes, first that we gave them a change order to CCUR 3.
Right.
And now they also won this contract. So it is convenient to have one electrical contractor that's doing it throughout both corridors.
Right?
Yes.
So my memory isn't faulty.
Nope, that's correct.
Thank you, I think. Okay, any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
Chair, I move that we approve these change orders.
We moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Chair,
Yes.
I just want to fully disclose that I'm employed by IBW 1260 and Hawaiian Electric is one of our signatories.
Okay, anything else? If not, I don't hear any other comments, so do we have unanimous consent? We do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
This was
Thank you,
sort of
directors.
expected anyway, because we were moving within kind of a strange situation. Members, we are on the last item, which is, and Kika, I hope we can do this quickly because it's your hard stop. Resolution 2024-20 is an acknowledgement and appreciation of Edwin Young. Do we have anyone here to testify on this matter? If not, any discussion, members? If not, do we have a motion?
Chair,
Yes,
sorry, I may have jumped the gun.
pardon?
No, go ahead, Roger.
I was going to make the motion. Do you have discussion, Kika?
We can take it
I'll
in
wait till after the
discussion.
motion. Yeah.
I move that we accept this very well-deserved motion to,
Resolution.
or resolution to, to honor Mr. Young for his good service to the board.
Seconded.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Kika, do you have a discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I didn't know Edwin until him serving on the board, and I do recall when we interviewed him, I asked a lot of questions, and I do recall that, I believe, Chair, I think you cut me off at one point because I was asking too many questions, maybe. But I just want to say that I really did enjoy working with Edwin, and he really, as I became to know him, I really got to know him as somebody that I felt was very fair, very, very, complete. He really understood the issues, and I appreciated learning from him through his questions and through his input on the board. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I cut you off, though. But as members, and I'm going to make this quick because Kika's got a hard stop. I had the privilege of working with Edwin on the audit of the auditor, and everything I tell people, everything I know about audits is thanks to Edwin, including green books and whatever else that we had, because he had a GAO background in addition to being the city auditor. And it was actually due to Edwin, who I did not know, that we have the rule that says that no one speaks for Hart unless the board authorizes it. And that's because of the fact that Edwin was the city auditor who did the first report on Hart, which was rather scathing, but that was the way Edwin was. So any other discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? We do. Thank you very much. And Kika, not bad, 5 minutes.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a safe trip.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Members, that brings us to adjournment. Thank you all very much. Hearing no objection, we're going to be adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.